Welcome back for week 3 of the Ranger Football Report. Kasa.
I'm Joel Geist.
And we're back in a studio this time.
Right.
Not the tree background.
Hey, I worked hard for those backgrounds.
You spent a lot of time on that lighting. It was much appreciated. But
worked hard for that. I mean, I had to find a portable sun for one of them.
Yeah, that light was a big light. All right, so to start off, I think we'll go through the 6A class scores from the last week, and we'll save the relevant ones for the end, and then we'll jump through those and into debriefing on last week's game and looking forward to next week's game.
Yeah. All right. So starting off with the scores from 6A, who we got?
We got White Bear Lake against Coon Rapids. White Bear beat Coon Rapids 30-14. Surprising that was. I mean, that's not really close, but Coon Rapids has not been the best in the last few years. So the fact that.
I mean, it could have been that they just kind of shut down the offense.
That's true.
It's not a huge. I mean, that's still a sizable victory. And again, I don't know if they have the scores by quarter, but you can't really tell if it was like, hey, we're up, and then they scored 2 close touchdowns. It could have been 30-0. Who knows? Yeah. And they just had,
that's true.
Underclassmen in
garbage time touchdowns. Number 18, Blaine took on 11 Rogers. Rogers beat Blaine 20-0. Number 9, Centennial all over Osseo with a score of 49-14. Mounds View took down Roseville 35-0. Maple Grove over Eden Prairie, 28-14. Let's see, Shakopee over Lakeville South, 16-12. Edina over Wyzetta, 40-14. Minnetonka over STMA, 40-7. Hopkins gets beat by Eastridge, 38-18. Champlin Park over Andover, 28-24. Moorhead and Woodbury. Moorhead beat Woodbury 34-27. Barn burner. And Farmington over Lakeville North 7-3. Now we go 2 weeks ago. Prior Lake taking on Egan, beat them 35-19. So Prior Lake, yes.
2 weeks ago,
opponent. 2 weeks ago, our opponent. Last week, Prior Lake beat Egan 35-19. I think it's definitely one of those things that we're seeing. Prior Lake is definitely probably a better team than a lot of people thought necessarily. And, they hung in there with Forest Lake. Forest Lake finally gets the Prior Lake win this year. But they're a formidable team.
Well, and, they played 2 solid opponents. Egan's pretty solid.
100%.
They're a solid team. Forest Lake definitely is, one of the higher ranked teams in the state. I think that Prior Lake definitely had their offense going. I mean, their running game was solid. And, that's part of what scares us a little bit, because Anoka also did the same thing. They took a page from Prior Lake and looked at it, and they kind of used that kind of game plan against us.
Yeah, the air raid attacks have definitely been foiling Forest Lake lately. Our secondary's got to get a little bit more consistent with just the coverage and knowing where players are at on the field. I feel like we get a couple receivers that have just gotten a little bit lost in that zone coverage that we've run a handful of times.
But it's also the fact that they've given their quarterbacks the rein to, hey, we're going to have you scramble out. We can get a lot of pressure. And they've been doing a lot of designed rollouts, which is definitely something that Forest Lake has got to get under control, because they can have a lot of pressure from one side, but they have no contain on the other side.
Yeah.
And that's been one of the biggest problems. That was the problem in Prior Lake's game. That was one of the big problems in the Anoka game.
100%. Yeah. I completely agree with that. I think they're going to roll. I'm guessing one of the things that you can kind of probably game plan for is whatever side Howie lines up to, they might flip the play. I don't think they're ever going to want to roll out to Howie's side. And if they do for some reason, you can guarantee he's getting triple teamed. So that backside defensive end, he's got his work cut out for him to try and get all the way back around and put any sort of pressure on him. And I think we saw the last play of the Prior Lake game that when they went for it on fourth, we saw Christensen finally step up and hit the contain on the quarterback, forcing him to throw that ball. And I think there's been glimmers of Forest Lake patching those problems, but we need to have a more, what would you want to say, a more consistent.
Yeah, and one you mentioned Christensen came in. Also, Degerstrom had one of the sacks in the Anoka game too, and it was where how he was coming from the other side. He was edge contained, sniffed out that there was not a running back behind him, and then rushed the quarterback.
Yeah.
I think they're getting it figured out. That's one thing that has that has hurt Forest Lake a lot. So I think scheming that into that is going to be very crucial later
100%.
on in the season.
Yeah, and I also think a huge thing that goes with that is we boasted so much this year about the Rangers not really having to train in new players on the offense. All of our skill position players were all returners. We lost a ton on the defensive side of the ball as far as starters go this year. So a lot of those guys...
Mainly in the secondary.
Yeah, mainly in the secondary. So I think that's part of our secondary problem is a lot of the guys that are starting in our secondary now, a lot of them got time last year, but it wasn't starting reps. And then not to mention the fact that as the game progresses, half of our defense and half of our offense are playing both ways.
Yeah.
And so that's another one of those things that we saw Anoka starting to do the hurry up at the end of the game. And I think that's kind of what led to the inconsistency on offense and defense in the second half was just the fact that you can play your heart out, but there ain't a ton of Travis Hunters out there that are going to be able to give maximum effort on every single down both ways.
Well, I mean, the biggest one that I saw that was taking a huge brunt of that was Drago. Drago was playing running back, and he was basically the short yardage back or the middle back, and those plays drain a lot out of you just because you're getting hit all the time. You're trying to drag bodies, and then he'd flip around and he would
get asked to blitz and go get hit by bodies,
and then go get run over by an offensive lineman for a while. He really played his heart out that game, and he picked up a lot of the slack that Jurkovich was gone, because a lot of the times, he might not be in some of those offensive packages.
Yeah. And
he was in double the amount of offensive packages that he normally is, plus he was playing defense. So he definitely picked up a ton of the slack with Jurkovich being out, which they said that he was kind of a scratch just for...
low ankle sprain, so they were just keeping him out. They'd rather keep him out for one game than have to keep him out for multiple games at the end of the year when it counts.
And, kind of depending on how this week goes, if they get up early, who knows? He may not play a lot in next week's game either.
We'll get into it a little bit later, but I don't know if I'd even play him this week.
I mean, yeah.
You want him to get reps, and obviously he wants to get out there, but at the same time,
it kind of depends on how he feels, too.
Yeah.
I mean, low ankle sprain.
If he's 100% ready to get going again, go for it. But if there's any twinge of pain in that ankle, I might just put him on a snap count for the week.
How was Park of Cottage Grove? What did do
you got anything else for Anoka?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a ton of stuff to talk about.
Well, let's go through Anoka, and then we'll get into next week.
So, to start off, when Jurkovich is out of this offense, there is a lot of scheming of plays that we kind of saw when Jurkovich was out 2 weeks ago. And you're just kind of, doing the long options, trying to get, Westman in space, trying to get Drago up the middle. And it was just a whole bunch of different kind of RPO run pass option kind of things that made it so you really didn't know who was going to get the ball. Like when Jurkovich is in there, there's a good chance that 60 to 70% of the defense knows that Jurkovich is going to get the ball and they can't do anything about it. It was very disguised on what you were going to do, and a lot of different looks. And Johnson played well and got a lot of rushing yards right up the middle. That was a big thing early. The rushing yards came through the middle and they were moving the ball consistently. And it kind of felt like Anoka's defensive line kind of had the rest issue. There was a couple of plays where the offense looked like they were tired.
Mm-hmm.
And that could have been from playing both ways. There's a number of times that it just didn't look like we had the push that we normally had. And that was late second quarter, early third. And in that span, it didn't look like we had the great push that we had.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the biggest thing I was gonna go off of with you there was Connor Johnson and his play. He did have an amazing game. We were talking during the broadcast about his passer rating. 11 attempts, 11 completions. So he went 100% on the day, threw for 100 yards. Should have been 102 yards and touchdown. But lucky tackle brings Rayfield down at the 2-yard line and ends up bringing it short. But then we got in the end zone anyways. On the ground, 12 attempts for 80 yards and 2 touchdowns, averaging 6.7. He took a huge load of carries for Jurkovich being out. But yeah, then Drago, 18 attempts, 84 yards, averaged 4.7 a carry and 2 touchdowns.
And those were all hard yards.
Yeah.
Those were up the middle. Those are the hard yards that, it's not, hey, I'm going to get the edge and I can rip off a quick 20. That was 4 or 5 yards and guys ripping at the ball and taking huge hits. So, and that's partially the reason, because of that workload, why I think Drago was one of the main players, and he was my player of the game. And that right there is the reason why, just because he picked up so much slack with Mac being out. Also, he was making plays on the defense, and that was huge. Rayfield had that one long pass that was solid, and the other thing is one of the biggest things that not many people are going to notice in the third quarter, I believe it was, when Anuangu flipped the field on that punt. He had a 60-yard field flipping punt, something like that. That was huge. And that was at a spot where Forest Lake didn't seem to be moving the ball. The defense kind of looked a little bit tired, like they couldn't stop him. And he flipped the field, and that was huge.
3 punts, 133 yards punting.
Yeah.
And almost 2/3 of that came on one punt. It felt like that was a huge field flipper. He averaged 44.3 a punt. It's not bad. And Connor's one was fantastic with his one little pooch punt that he had for 50 yards.
And that right there is a play that we're going to continually see, I think, just because it's an easy way for them to put up and go to the hard count.
Yeah.
You can hard count, and then you don't have to stop. If the hard count's not working, they're not coming, then he just has to back up, punt it, and bam. Now you have the starting defense in there. You have nobody ready to return. And you're like, as long as he can keep that end over end where, you're going to get a 20-yard roll, that's that's solid right there.
Well, and also with that, you have a better chance of not having to take a timeout.
Mm-hmm.
When you do the hard count thing, a lot of teams they'll hard count, and then when nobody jumps, they wind the clock down to 3, take a timeout, or sometimes they even take a delay a game.
Right.
But yeah, having Connor to be able to just drop back a step or two and boot it, that's going to be a very useful play to have in the old arsenal. On defense last week, pulling up a defensive deal here. Total tackles. I mean, we got how many people on the tackle chart here? I mean, basically the entire starting defense.
Yeah,
accounted for at least one tackle.
The biggest share of those came from the linebackers, and Cullen Christensen and Drago, Drago and Brooks Roan. All those guys were crashing, and they were gashing us on the outside. So a lot of the linebackers ended up, those tackles were coming like 6-8 yards down the line of scrimmage. So we kind of expected Anoka just to put it on us and throw it. They kind of gashed us a little bit in the run game. And
yeah, Brooks Roan or Brody Rush, excuse me, not Brooks Roan.
Yeah,
19 attempts for 111 yards.
And that kid was basically, it looked like he was playing Madden and just could not stop hitting the spin move.
Yeah,
because
nasty spin move on Brody.
He was stopped dead to rights at least 3 times, and he did a full spin on him and got completely away, and then got at least another 5 to 10 yards behind that. And he did that like 3 times. It was pretty ridiculous, in fact. And it was so weird because like he just went to the spin move. I didn't see much for a stiff arm. I didn't
juke.
see like a little Barry Sanders get down and do the juke like Jurkovich does, get low and put one foot in the ground and go the other way. Like I didn't see any of that. It was just, I'm going to run straight at you. The second that you touch me, I am spinning.
Yeah.
It was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And as far as on defense goes, we had a turnover.
Yeah, the big one at the end. That was great.
Big one at the end.
Should have had 2 more.
Yeah.
The boys this week in practice, we got to work on timing our jumps out. We had 2 near interceptions that we were just a hair off timing wise, and then one of them ended up being a touchdown. But yeah, I think you could throw that. That's a whole nother thing. You get those 2 interceptions. Both of those, I believe, led to scoring drives by the end of the game. Maybe just, I know one of them did because the missed jump turned into a touchdown. So then that game isn't even as close to what it looked like on the scoreboard if we do come up with those 2 interceptions. It's just, I think that's going to be the thing here is there's been past Ranger teams that we've broadcasted for and some of us have been a part of where there's major glaring problems of, okay, our offensive line is severely undersized and they don't get a push, and therefore our run game is going to be terrible and we don't have any pocket, and it just kind of breaks down and there's very large problems that are almost unfixable. This Ranger team, last year's Ranger team, seems like ever since Brad got here, a lot of the teams are a few minor mistakes away from being an unbelievable team that are blowing teams out. But every once in a while, we slip up and make small little fundamental errors that will cause the game to be a little bit closer than it needed to be. And I think by the end of the season, if we can really get into a rhythm and fix a lot of those small technique issues, those 2 near picks become picks. And now we're beating teams by 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, but I mean, in every game, you're going to have missed interceptions.
You're going to have that.
You're going to have that.
100%.
But speaking of fixing mistakes. I apologize to Mr. Derek Loomis, who had the sack, not AJ Dagerstrom. It's 22-33, and I forgot in my head who it was, but it was Derek Loomis that had the great sack on the edge when Howie was on the other side. So sorry about that. That was my mistake. I will fix it. I just did. We are a fact-based show here.
I got to get the Christensen boys straight by next week.
That one was rough.
That's my deal.
Especially since one of them is good friends of your family.
Yeah, and then he was at the game, so I got a ton of crap about that one.
Yep.
That was fun. Do you got anything else for Anoka, or are you ready to?
Yeah, I mean, we missed.
Keep going.
We missed one of your player of the game.
Well, yeah, I guess we didn't talk about the game clinching field goal.
We didn't talk about something that you hardly ever see in high school football.
Yeah,
like
that was impressive.
Everybody looks at it like, oh, he kicked a 40-yarder in college or whatever. Like, this is the kind of stuff you don't see in high school. A 45-yard field goal that cleared it by at least 10 yards.
Yeah. No, we've seen good kickers before that can and are capable of making field goals like that, and they have D1 recruitment offers to Alabama. Ryerson, both of the Ryerson brothers kicked at the U or are kicking at the U. So yeah, like it's a once in a while talent that you do get to see, and when it happens, it's so cool. So the fact that it is on the Rangers side now is awesome. And knowing that we got that weapon in our back pocket only gives me more confidence for the kicking performances we can see from him this year.
Yeah, and I mean, there was one missed extra point, I believe.
Yep, missed extra point
that
more than made up for it.
It looked like the hold was...
It was a low
hold, and it was tough to get under. So, like, we're not talking about that as being his fault at all, which it completely wasn't. It was, I mean, special teams is hard, and if you've never long snapped or caught and hold, you have no idea the pressure that and the timing that it takes.
5 yards away, that thing's on you, and then you got to get it down, spin the laces out, and have your finger. Everything set in the time it takes your kicker to basically take 2 steps forward. Yeah.
So it's amazing that they had the chance. And this is the one thing, because let's face it, it was 28-20. Yeah. And it was on the 35. And if they block it and it goes to the house, now you're sitting at 26-28.
I'm trying to remember. I have to brush up on the rules on that because I think high school, if it's blocked, it's just dead ball.
Is it really just dead ball?
I believe so.
Okay.
Well, I know on extra points it is. They keep extra points.
Right, but I thought field goals were different.
They might be.
Because field goal, you're electing to take it. You're not.
That's true.
Because on a 2-point conversion, it's just dead if you don't get it, right? 2-point conversion is
correct. Like a fumble wouldn't be able to be
returned in college, because in college you can take it for 2.
Yeah,
but you can't and in college a blocked field goal is just blocked.
Oh yeah, I'd have to double check all that by next week, and we'd have an answer on the broadcast.
But anyways, the fact that we got a chance to attempt that in a game with wind to see what we have as far as a kicking team, that makes a huge difference later down the road when you get to those, late October games. You get Stillwater coming, the Stillwater close games that we're expecting, hey, nobody's going to run away with this game. Stillwater is going to be close. No matter, I can tell you right now that it's probably going to be a 1-score game between us and Stillwater.
Yep.
And
Mounds View probably the same.
Yeah, Mounds View definitely is a solid team, and if they're I mean, they won handily last week, and that's going to be a close game as well. But just to have a field goal kicker that, I mean, his extra points, he almost cleared the fence in Goodrich Stadium, which is, I mean,
It's a ways
that's
up
a
there.
25-foot wall plus another
Yeah.
6 feet on the fence, and he almost cleared it. It bounced off the fence and bounced back in. And
Well,
so
I was also gonna say it's got to be cool to know the confidence that B Scout has in you as the kicker. You go out, you miss that extra point, and you see it wasn't just on the kicker's foot. You know, as coaching football, I'd look at that as like a team breakdown on what happened there between the center, the holder, kicker,
yeah,
that whole thing. We already messed that up once. I don't know if for me, I don't know what I would have done in that situation about being like, all right, the last time we tried this, it didn't go well. We had a bad snap, bad hold, and the kick went way to the left side. But I trust the boys to get out there and execute this time.
absolutely.
So like that was cool to see. And I mean, they completely redeemed themselves with that second one. And also, we brought it up during the game, but this game would have been a whole lot closer had Anyuongo not made 2 touchdown-saving
Absolutely.
tackles on kick returns. One of them wasn't so bad, but it was an impressive hit. Come right up the sideline. He leveled him.
Laid him out.
And then the second one was almost DK Metcalf, like of you think he's gone, and then you just see the kicker
Right.
hauling down the sideline and pulling him down from behind.
Yeah, he definitely
2
turned on the
crazy
jets to
effort
catch
plays.
him. And
Yeah.
and the second one, because the first one they did get points.
Yeah.
The first one they got points. The second one stopped him at, it was like the 20, and then the Ranger defense held. So they had super great field position. I think they got a couple of penalties. Like one was a false start penalty, and I think one was a holding call that brought a run that would have given a first down back.
Yep.
And then it kind of fell off the rails from there, and then we ended up getting the ball back. So yeah, that was a huge saving tackle. Even though it's like, well, he's still got a 60-yard or 70-yard return. Doesn't matter if they don't get points. I don't care how you can get all the return yards you want. If you don't get points, I don't care. So,
Well, I'd like to see you kind of touched on Anoka's drive stalling out there with the timeouts. I'd like to see. I wish I could find the stat of penalty yards because I feel like the Rangers actually did a very good job. Yeah, they don't have it recorded, but I feel like the Rangers did we had a couple of penalties throughout, but not many that killed a drive like we had against Prior Lake with just going backwards 20 yards. And next thing you know, it's 2nd and 35 and we got problems on our hands.
Yeah, but I also feel like
I remember there was a couple.
I also feel like the when you're talking about penalties in the first game,
that's true.
I feel like
they weren't always warranted.
The first 15 against the coach was quick.
Yeah. That was setting the tone for the game.
That was quick, and yeah. So we're not going to talk about that anymore, but we'll just say that there might have been some.
And I just think that the Rangers played a more disciplined game this week with the penalties, not so many mental errors that way. And that's something we'd like to see going forward because that, I feel like, goes into what I was saying earlier with the small thing. I feel like it's very much Ranger football to, all right, we just need to get a couple of first downs and keep the clock rolling. And there's no chance whatever team we're playing gets back into this game. And then it's 2 false start penalties and we shoot ourselves in the foot. And that's happened for years.
Yeah. The other thing that I think that Forest Lake really can work on, especially if they're going to be running this spread out offense, like, hey, we're going to run to the wide side of the field. Thank you very much, running for the wide side of the field instead of trying to run to the short side of the field. Give your offensive linemen a chance to have space. If you can't maneuver around guys to get a block on somebody, it's hard to make you a lane. But running backs, you need to pick your lane and you need to get decisive and get that quick 4 yards. Yeah, you might catch the corner, you might get around and you might get 30 yards. I guarantee you, if you run that play multiple times, taking the 5 or 6 that you're going to get from just putting your foot in the ground and going north and south, it's going to be better in the long run.
I do agree. North and south is much better than east and west. I understand sometimes you got to go east to west to get north-south, but you start getting out towards the numbers, unless you see clear daylight all the way around there, you just, as soon as you get off that tackle, be looking for your lane.
And that's the thing that we get a little bit spoiled with Mac.
Yeah.
Because, hey, he can go and he can stretch it out as long as he wants because he knows he can make that first guy miss.
Yep.
If you know you can make that first guy miss, it doesn't matter how wide he is. You can just, hey, I'm going to take this here. I'm going to take this there. And that's the problem. Like, he keeps stretching it out. It's the problem for the defense, not like, because, and that's why Mac is so good at what he does, because he can wait. And the defense, he's like, he's got to be coming. And he tries to get to the edge, and then he'll just right around the other side.
We saw it right before halftime against Prior Lake. Yeah.
And the dude's flying towards the sideline. Mac takes 3 steps in and straight down, and he's gone. And that's a situation where you can string that out because you have that ability. But if you don't, just take your quick 5-6 yards and call it a day. You know, who knows? You might make that next guy miss, and you know what? That linebacker's probably a little bit bigger, might hurt a little bit, but hey, you're carrying the ball. Let's get some positive yardage.
Well, I feel like, with the situation that you're saying, put your foot in the ground and get north, and even if you just dive and avoid the hit, you're still getting more yards than we've gotten half the time on those super wide sweeps trying to get it all the way up to the edge.
Right, and you're also, you're also taking the ability for like 3 or 4 guys to corral you against the sideline, stand you up and pull the ball out. It's one of those things that you're minimizing some of the risk by getting yourself north-south and getting, a one-on-one tackle or maybe one, and then some guy comes a little bit later.
Well, and getting all the way out to the sideline is great, but I also still remember one of his famous lines was, the sideline is the best defender on the edge.
Right.
It makes 100% of its tackles.
Yes.
Because 1 foot and plays over. So staying in bounds and trying to get north-south, I've always been a fan of that style of football.
One last thing from Anoka.
Yeah.
Big thanks to all the Ranger faithful, the Forest Lake Ranger faithful that made it out.
We had a bigger crowd than Anoka did.
Yeah, those bleachers were a rockin'. Big thanks to everybody that came in.
You can see it on the camera.
Said hi. We appreciate everybody that stopped in, said hi, gave us the old head nod, and also. Big thanks to Goodrich, the Anoka Tornadoes and their athletic director. Always great time out there. Enjoy their stadium. Enjoy the crowd, the feeling. It's a great time. Great time every time we get out to Goodrich Field.
Always very accommodating. We very much appreciate it. All right, on to the game at hand. The Rangers this week play Park Cottage Grove. And if we check in on how they did last week, because I didn't read that score off, they were beat by Stillwater 50-9. This is one of the teams that when we did our episode 1 of the podcast, Caleb got to Park Cottage Grove and said, do we have to spend much time on Park Cottage Grove? yes and no. Because you don't want to look past teams.
You never want to look past a team, and no matter who it is, they're going to have one or two guys that can make plays.
Yep.
Every team has somebody that can make plays, and you never know if you get careless. That's when penalties happen, and that's how you get behind the sticks a lot. You're just not thinking about it, and you're not locked in and dialed in. So a lot of those holding penalties, face masks, encroachments, offsides, illegal procedures for 15 yards. That's what a lot of those things kind of happen.
Yeah.
It's a situation that I really don't think that we should be looking past Park. However, I fully expect that if this team plays the way they should take care of business.
Well, I think that this is one of those. The Rangers have a chance this week to have a good game at home, put a lot of points on the board, get experience for underclassmen, and take care of business and show the fan base and the state and media that it's not always going to be a close game. And we just got done playing two really tough games and completely deserve the respect that we've been getting this year. If you come out and it's a close game against Park and we just continue the close game thing, it's almost starts to get looked at the way that the Vikings did a couple of years ago. We're like, congratulations, you're basically undefeated, but you're beating teams that you should throttle by 5 points or one score. It's where some of that respect kind of gets lost. I'd like to just see a game of the Rangers just gopher style where we run out of fireworks for touchdowns. You know what I mean?
Well, we have not had one of those games. I personally don't like those games because we're sitting there at the third quarter trying to make something.
Yeah, but that's fun because then we get Dave laughing up in the booth. Then we get the goal of like how hard can we get the booth laughing instead of what's going on in the game.
Very true. But these close games have been great.
They've been very fun.
This has been the B-Scout years have been some of the best high school football that I've seen. We've had so many close games, and even teams that should have beat us in the past, that it was closer than it should have been. That first year when it was Mounds View in the rain or something, overtime.
Yes. Yep.
That game was phenomenal. It was under 20 points, just a hard-fought game, and you never...
Stillwater last year was great, the overtime game. This year, the Prior Lake game, obviously a fantastic game. The Anoka game a couple of years ago. We've talked about that all the time.
I think they said it was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
The comeback. But these close games are fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get into hey, we're going to throttle these guys by 50. Okay, I get it. But, Yeah,
it's just, it's nice to have one a season.
Well, yeah.
I'm a big offensive guy. I like seeing the scoreboard.
I love the defense. I love the offensive line. And you know what? All that stuff is on the line all the time because you have to execute every play. We used it a lot at Anoka, 5 yards in a cloud of dust. And for that to happen and to be able to make a sustaining drive, the offensive line has to be clicking. They have to be on their assignments. And if they're not, that's a 3 and out every time.
Mm-hmm.
And, I love the big plays, and the big plays are fun, but I like watching people execute.
So, Park Cottage Grove this year has played 2 games, just like us.
Mm-hmm.
First game they played White Bear, lost 28-14, and then last week was against a high-powered Stillwater team and they lost 50-9. From what I remember last year, size is definitely going to be a concern for Cottage Grove, as their offensive and defensive line are not near the size of Forest Lakes.
Right.
I think we said that a little bit about Anoka. I'd bet Anoka didn't have their guys rostered correctly because their boys were a lot bigger than what they said on their roster.
That offensive line looked definitely a lot bigger than what it did on the stat sheet and what they had listed. But again, you miss guys on the roster you don't see. Oh, we don't know who's starting out of these guys. And typically you can figure it's the biggest guys on there. But Anoka did have a solid looking offensive line. And once again, taking nothing away from Anoka, they did well in the state tournament last year.
Yep.
They're a solid team. And once again, I mean, this whole 6A, unless, there's a few teams that we can just say, all right, you're probably not going to make it very far after, week one of the playoffs. But there's a lot of these teams that are good programs with good coaches. And hey, you never know. They could make up a huge scheme that works perfectly against that team. And there's quite a few teams that can, maybe 16 teams in there. And, you're probably not going to beat the Maple Groves, right out of the gate. But, there are a lot of those 6, 7 seeds that are going to be the number one seed in their bracket that could go down to one of these teams that, hey, they play close games with a whole bunch of people. They just end up losing them a lot. And that's what Forest Lake used to be. Like Forest Lake used to be that team that, hey, we're going to play close with a whole bunch of people. We had really close games. And that's the team you have to be afraid of when they make the playoffs, because once you're in there, hey, anything can happen. It's like in hockey. It's like in hockey playoffs. Like your goalie is just going out of his mind crazy and saves everything for 3 nights in a row. You're probably going to win the series, even though you're a terrible team compared to, what you have played in the past. But hey, once the playoffs hit and, somebody can just turn it on and boom, change the whole game for somebody. And that's kind of what I think of a lot of these mid-tier teams, that a lot of like, oh, well, they lost to this person by 20 and yeah, okay. But they played them tough for the first 3 quarters. And then who knows? Maybe they got tired. Maybe you never know with a lot of these games that maybe some of them underclassmen coming in and change it so it is closer. So maybe it's not as close as it looks, but for the most part, the teams on the schedule that we play, the tougher teams, I mean, any of them can be section champs coming out of them,
I agree. I will say this. So far in the season, if there are 2 teams that I don't want to have to see again in the playoffs, it's Anoka and Prior Lake. And I'm sure it will continue being that way with these close games. Because, there's a lot of those teams. White Bear's always one that we play very close for some reason. We've gotten the best of them the past couple of years. But they're another one that I don't.
Well, and we got Stillwater coming up.
Yep. Stillwater.
Mounds View has been just a catastrophe after catastrophe in Mounds View. Last year, I think they played the
worst game
of the season
by
against
far.
Mounds View. And
I think I would venture to say that might have been the worst game since Brad took over coaching.
It was just a ton of
3 years.
mental mistakes, like a ton of penalties.
We had no answer for the option that they were running.
So, like, all of these teams, and granted, some of them lose players, and some of them are not the same team, but they still kind of are, because a lot of the program is, each Brad B Scout team has its own differences, But what has it had for the most part? It's had a defensive line every year, and it's had a running back that has been solid and has had schemes to get a ton of yardage and a ton of big plays. And every year that's been pretty consistent. There was Brisboy, there was Patzer, and now there's Jurkovich. And, each one of those teams, and when you get later in the playoffs, they're gonna find those guys that this is my coach, my coaching style, and that kid fits me perfectly. I might not have seen him, in summer, but hey, they find him in JV, or he's sitting on the bench and you give him a shot and he really shows that he can do it. So late in the year, there's a lot of these teams that are going to look different than they do right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll do a quick little comparison here for Park, since that's really all we can do with them, because they have lost 2 and they really haven't been all that close. So starting quarterback for Park, Latavion Scott, or excuse me, not Latavion Scott. I just had all of these moved around and set. Easton Erickson has completed 21 of his 42 attempts for 208 yards and 1 touchdown.
2 interceptions.
2 interceptions. Forest Lake with Connor, and a little giving an update as far as that goes. Why did that just go to full statistics? Not what we were looking for. Technical difficulties. Here we go. Connor has completed 18 of 19 for 160. So they've attempted a lot more, but Connor seems to be a lot more precise with the football this year. And that's something that we've talked about multiple times.
The efficiency that he's had has been phenomenal. I, this week, however, think that is not going to be the case. I think this week we're going to see some big plays, and it's going to stray away from our normal scheme just to see. It's going to be like a full speed contact practice for a lot of plays that we normally wouldn't run against really tough opponents, just because they may have a huge risk factor, might not have, risk factor as far as, the long, deep throws that may or may not work very well. Also, maybe getting timing down on maybe a couple of trick plays. I would see this as a full contact practice after, let's just say we're up by 2 touchdowns. What are we going to do? Well, we're going to try stuff that you want to try. Like, hey, let's run it. Let's just see if it works. And, those are things that you're going to use later. And I don't want to look past anybody, but I will say that if the scores are very similar to what they have been with the previous opponents that Park has had, that's what it's going to look like, I think. I think the same sort of thing that you're saying here, but I don't think necessarily it's going to affect Connor's efficiency as much. How can it not? He's at 95% efficiency. If you throw three incomplete passes.
Sure, yes. I got you there. But I still think Connor's shown so far this year. Do I think he's going to be at 90% efficiency by the end of the year? No, that's completely not realistic. But I think Connor's going to be... I bet you Connor's stat line looks completely different after this week in a positive way. I think this would be a week that Brad says, well, for the rest of the year. Let's see what you got and cut him loose, especially if Mac isn't playing. I bet you we pass a lot more than we have the past couple of games. And I'd love to see that because Connor has had really 2 deep throws the whole year, and they were beautiful balls. Both of them should have gone for touchdowns. And yeah.
And I would say that, like, from what you're saying, that yes, we would throw a lot. And people would say, well, oh, you're piling on the score. Well, I'm sorry, folks, but score matters when it goes into sectionals, section seeding. So score does matter.
Point differential.
And, you know, if you say, oh, they're going to run up the score or whatever, they're not running up the score. They're playing to win. And, you know, that was one thing that Caleb had talked about as far as like, hey, we get into sectionals and we win 1, maybe 2 games and then we're out. Like, we're looking to get one of those top spots, have the home playoff game, and, you know, try and get to the bank.
Avoid some of those mid-tier teams that...
Right. Those, like what I was talking about earlier, those 12 to 16, you know, those teams that are between 12 and 16 that are spoilers. Like, hey, everybody's looking past these guys. And no, you know, you can't look past them because they're going to trip you up.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, I'm just going to put an over-under number that I think is going to happen. I'm not going to put a score because then I'm not going to give them something to hang on their scoreboard.
Yeah, so, what do you got? What do you got for your
my over-under number?
Predictions?
My over-under number has been solid.
It has.
First week, I hit it on the nose at 39. Second week, I said it was going to be 31-17. It was 31-20. So I missed my over-under number by 3. This week, over-under 52.
You're on 52. Okay, I'll go. I'm gonna go 65.
Wow.
I think the Rangers put up a lot of points, and I think that Park gets a couple late in the game.
All right.
But I'm predicting a win.
Well, I mean, I'm predicting a win too. I just don't want to put the score up, so I'm putting the over-under number. That's where we're at. 52.
All right. Any other crazy predictions? I think Howie gets 2 sacks. I think Howie gets 2 this week. He's gotten 1 in the past 2 games. I think he gets 2. He doubles it this week, if not a few more.
I think that you know what? I'm going to say this is the one. This is the one. The heavy package wins. One of the heavy guys gets a touchdown this week.
See, the only reason I disagree with you on that is just the way it lines up.
It's going to
have to throw it to him.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
All right.
It's going to happen.
I don't put it past Brad whatsoever, but
Howie Johnson or Nate Schleif, one of the two.
Reel in a touchdown pass.
You're going to have a release, reel in a touchdown pass, book it. That's what I'm calling.
All right. Sounds good.
Heavy packages worked amazing, by the way, absolutely.
Love whenever we see when Howie and
Nate Schleif go in, the heavies are in.
Touchdown.
It's
been consistent.
It has been consistent, and that has been a hallmark of Brad Beeskow. He has had a heavy package. Mark Rendell was in the heavy package, and Mark Rendell did score a touchdown out of the heavy package.
He did.
So I'm saying, just calling it. I've been calling it that it's going to happen. First, we had to have the heavy package, period, because we didn't know that there was one. And then it was week 1. Now I'm saying Howie or Nate Schleif, one of the two, will have a touchdown by the end of the year, and I think it's this game.
All right, bold prediction. Well, we thank you for joining us for the 3rd episode of the Ranger Football Report. And we hope to see you tomorrow and have you come out to the game, because as Joel and I have predicted, it's going to be an entertaining one for Ranger fans.
Right. Make sure you like and subscribe, hit that bell so it'll know when our next week's podcast will be coming up. Also, it will tell you when the game is. Plus, make sure you tune in early to the game. Noah and I will be down on the sidelines, and we will do a pregame once again. It was pretty good last time, and we're working on everything to make it better. I mean, we got this awesome set here, and we might have a little something cooked up for the sideline game this week.
All right, sounds good. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening wherever you find this video and podcast. And I'm Noah.
I'm Joel.
And we'll see you tomorrow night. Go Rangers.
Go Rangers.